können, wenn die ganze Kraft der Nation zusammengerissen wird. Die Gegner werfen uns Nationalsozialisten vor und mir insbesondere, dass wir intolerante, unverträgliche Menschen seien. Wir wollten, sagen sie, mit anderen Parteien nicht arbeiten. Die Herren haben ganz recht. Wir sind intolerant. Ich habe mir ein Ziel gestellt, nämlich die 30 Parteien aus Deutschland hinauszufegen.
In the 1932 election campaign, the first party Hitler intends to have eliminated is the Communist Party. The stormtroopers are given the task. They are now 400,000 strong. They finance themselves, paying for their own uniforms and equipment. One of them, Wolf Töbert, works in a delicatessen in Hamburg. He's ready to join his motorized unit at a moment's notice. He states, "I had only one thought, to risk my life for Germany." The humiliation of the Treaty of Versailles had made me a passionate defender of Hitler. There was companionship, solidarity, and pride in wearing a uniform. We, who were ashamed of having been too young to have fought in the Great War, took advantage of our elders' experience. July 1932, the bloody summer of the election campaign. The SA stormtroopers, with the complicity of the police, provoke street battles with the communists. 100 dead and many wounded is the toll among the communists. Many Germans, exhausted by the disorder and the government's powerlessness, approve of the Nazis' violent acts. The result is that 230 Nazis are elected to parliament. Hitler is now head of the country's strongest political party. Power is within his reach for the first time. However, euphoria quickly gives way to disappointment. President Hindenburg refuses to name him Chancellor, head of the government. Hindenburg tells Hitler, "Before God, my conscience, and the fatherland, I cannot hand over power to a party as intolerant as yours." Nevertheless, Hindenburg does offer him a role in the government. But Hitler doesn't consider himself an ordinary politician seeking a ministerial position. He wants all the power to establish a totalitarian state. In a few weeks, Goebbels, the head of the vast Nazi parliamentary group, succeeds in paralyzing democratic procedure. No majority can be formed. Now Goebbels announces, it's high time to dissolve this assembly which no longer reflects the will of the people. An election has to be called again, the third within a year. It'll take place in November. Hitler sees it as another chance to make gains.
Ich habe die Energie und die Zähigkeit gehabt, von den damaligen 1000 Mann vor 10 Jahren bis heute 14 Millionen zu machen. Und ich werde aus den 14 Millionen die 20 und die 30 Millionen machen.
The election's results are a crushing disappointment for Hitler. Surrounded by his personal SS guard, he broods over his failure. He has lost 2 million voters. Goebbels says, "We've had a setback. Hitler refused to enter the government, and the voters didn't understand why." With bitterness, Goebbels reads the foreign press reports. The London Daily Herald writes, "Hitlerism as a political force is dead." The French daily Le Populaire, edited by eminent socialist Léon Blum, has the headline, "The End of Hitler." But 3 months later, Hindenburg, still facing the impossibility of forming a majority, finally names Hitler Chancellor of Germany. A student in Berlin, Sebastian Hafner, writes, "I've just heard the news. I'm frozen with terror. For an instant, I can physically smell blood and mud. I see something dangerous, like the big, dirty paw of a predatory animal raking its claws over my face." To achieve his end, the wolf disguises himself as a lamb. Hitler reassures Hindenburg by asking for only 2 ministerial portfolios for the Nazis. The Minister of the Interior would be a Munich policeman named Wilhelm Frick, with Hermann Göring at his side, also to control the police. 2 key positions. Hitler advances by subterfuge. His aim is to show that the most important ministerial positions have gone to a conservative, Franz von Papen, a former chancellor, and to the strongman of the extreme right, Alfred Hugenberg, Minister of the Economy and Agriculture, an aggressive and authoritarian hardliner. Hitler calls his government the Cabinet of National Concentration, to make it sound like a nationalist coalition, rather than a predominantly Nazi government. This very reactionary body believes it can control Hitler. Von Papen makes a costly mistake when he says to Hugenberg, "Hitler is our man," to which Hugenberg replies, "We oversee him." That very evening, January the 30th, 1933, in Berlin and all the other large German cities, Goebbels organizes a torchlight parade of the Steel Helmet Veteran Group, the SS, and, prominently, the SA stormtroopers. Goebbels declares that 1 million people marched in the parade, but the British military attaché estimates them at less than 15,000 marchers, made to go around in circles for hours by Goebbels. They pass under the windows of the 85-year-old President Hindenburg, who, believing himself in Verdun in 1916, says to his aide, "Our men are parading well. They've taken many prisoners." Hitler, at the Chancellery, receives a frenzied tribute. Louise Solmitz, a Berlin schoolteacher, says, "It was drunkenness without wine." She adds, "I heard people shouting, 'Death to the Jews! Jewish blood will gush under the knife.'" Goebbels concludes, "It's like a fairy tale." At the Berlin Sports Palace, Hitler delivers his first speech as Chancellor. What is Hitler's plan? Absolute power, but by stages. There are still 200 communist and social democrats in the Reichstag. Therefore, Hitler's first move is to dissolve parliament and call new elections. His speech, broadcast on radio, is an appeal to all voters, even those on the left.
Und hege felsenfest Überzeugung, dass eben doch dann einmal die Stunde kommt, in der die Millionen, die uns heute verfluchen, hinter uns stehen und mit uns begrüßen werden dann das gemeinsam geschaffene, wiedererkämpfte, wiedererworbene neue deutsche Reich der Größe und der Ehre und der Kraft und der Herrlichkeit.
With this relatively conciliatory speech, Hitler continues to advance, wearing a mask. Goebbels, however, wants to clarify matters by returning to the fundamentals, anti-Semitism and violence, for the Nazi voter base.
Und wenn die jüdischen Zeitungen heute glauben, auf versteckte Drohungen und die nationalsozialistische Bewegung einschüchtern zu können. Sie sollen sich hüten. Einmal wird unsere Geduld zu Ende sein und dann wird den Juden das freche Lügenmaul gestopft werden. Dass eher als wir alle denken, die Stunde des Endes des roten Terrors gekommen sein wird. Und wir werden den Herren vom Karl-Liebknecht-Haus bald Töne beibringen, die sie noch niemals vernommen haben.
Only 2 weeks later, in Berlin, the great Reichstag, the German parliament building, burns down in the night.